this, Murphy.
It's hard to,
We're so bad.
We're gonna get through this. All right. Welcome back to Poutine Politics, Canadian issues served with cheese curds. My name's Adam.
My name's Mike.
And today's topic is marijuana.
Marijuana?
1 year later.
You picked like the worst person on the planet to talk to about it. All right,
that's
let's
okay.
go.
That's okay. This isn't necessarily like an opinion thing. This is a stats kind of thing.
Yeah, okay. No stats on it either.
No, that's fine. I have the stats that matter. Or at least what I feel are the stats that matter. There's where the opinion comes in. It's the stats that I felt that mattered to talk about it.
All right.
Okay. So I kind of want to just go over what some of those stats are and some other articles that I was reading about it to kind of, I guess in the end result, it's almost like judging whether or not the rollout across the country so far has been a success or not. Base level opinion.
Do you pick your province?
Okay, fair enough. Let me rephrase that. Base level overall. How do you feel? What do you think?
Okay.
That's a safe answer.
Yes, it's a safe answer because I know how well it's gone in some provinces and how horribly it's gone in others.
Yes. Well, we're gonna get there. We're gonna contrast the two.
It's okay. There's certain places where it's been like, wow, you guys did a good job, and other places I'm like,
what?
How do we like you?
How do we mess this up so badly? The first thing I wanted to cover is just very simple statistics. So this is from StatsCan, and this is for second quarter of 2019. These statistics are self-reported, so you can take them. They're not, obviously 100% rooted in, quote unquote science, as it were, because in order for these numbers to be correct, StatsCan had to rely on people providing them accurate information. In the second quarter of 2019, approximately 4.8 million people used marijuana or cannabis product of some sort, which is about 16% of the population.
Yeah, I could see that.
Okay.
It's about a sixth.
Seems kind of like reasonable.
1 in 6, yeah.
Yep. And of those 4.8 million people, 2 million of them are in Ontario, or just over 2 million of them are in Ontario. I think the second highest province was Alberta at about 760,000.
I don't believe your numbers.
They're from StatsCan.
Yeah, but I believe 2 million people got their products in Ontario.
No. This isn't necessarily about getting products. This is just cannabis use, whether it's legal or illegal. This is just cannabis use.
Oh, well, yeah, then, yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay. So cannabis use by province. Which province do you think had the highest percentage use of its population?
BC?
Nope.
Is it Newfoundland? Because they have to deal?
Nope.
Who is it?
Nova Scotia.
Oh, sorry.
So in those 3 months, 24.4% of the population of Nova Scotia self-reported that they used cannabis products of some sort. Which province was the lowest?
Alberta? No, because they would have a good rollout.
Yeah.
Quebec?
Yeah. 10.3%.
Because they're all churchy.
Well, it's not only that. I'm gonna get there, but that's not the only reason. Which age range do you think had the highest usage?
25 or 35?
25 to 34, 27.4%. What's the lowest?
What's the cap?
65 plus is the cap.
65 plus.
65 plus is definitely the lowest. You asked that question and I give the answer away basically. 65 plus was only 5.5%.
Well, it's going to be the cap. I didn't care what it was.
What group do you think had the second most users?
45 to 55.
15 to 24.
Oh, yeah, I suppose.
Because keep in mind, it's not just legal usage. Right. All right. So that was second quarter numbers for 2019.
It's a good baseline.
It is. It's a good baseline. Okay, a little bit more of the numbers. So in the 12 months since legalization, how much dollar-wise do you think has been sold across the country in cannabis products legally?
$5 billion.
Way over the mark.
4.9 million.
Okay, way under the mark.
I have no idea.
1.1 billion in 12 months.
5 billion's not that far off.
5 billion is pretty far off when you're talking about 1.1 being the actual number.
Keep in mind, I have no idea about pricing of this stuff. I think I was pretty good. I got it within, like, I was looking, I hope I'm gonna try and get it within 10 times. Either way, and I'd be happy.
Okay.
was my goal.
I suppose under that guideline, you pass.
Yeah, because I have no
with
idea.
your first answer.
I have no idea how much it's worth.
So this was an article on the website called leafly.ca, dated October 17th. So it's a relatively recent article because obviously October 17th was the 1-year anniversary of legalization of marijuana. So their estimates are based on those sales that the amount of legal marijuana that was sold and consumed in those 12 months was 105,000 kilograms, or approximately enough to fill almost 2 rail freight carts.
Wow.
Does that sound like a lot? That sounds like a lot to me.
Sorry.
It sounds like a lot to me, but I'm not a user.
Yeah.
Right? So neither of us
No
are.
idea.
We're wholly unprepared for this topic, except for me because I have the notes.
Yeah, pretty much. I think I might know more about abortion than this.
We're not going to go there. However, according to an Associated Press story from October 16th, so one day before, black market sales in the country are still estimated to be $5 to $7 billion annually.
So I was guessing the black market.
You were guessing the black market numbers.
Right,
Yes, that's your problem.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Sorry, I couldn't. I got refused on my confusion of the market.
Part of the reason is that apparently right now, or at least in third quarter 2019, the average price of a gram of cannabis from a legal source was $10.23, and the average price from an illegal source is $5.59 a gram.
Yes, because no one would ever buy illegal. No one's ever bought illegal cigarettes of any kind either.
Yeah, exactly. That's why people go to the reserve and get their bags instead of their cartons, right?
Wait, what?
Bags of cigarettes? No. So, based on those numbers, how well do you think the rollout's gone? Still okay?
It's okay. It's perfectly fine. I give you guys a D.
All right. D minus.
Straight up, it's an F. Like, who were you trying to pretend?
Yeah. Okay. This is also from the Associated Press story. So there's currently 560 licensed stores across Canada.
Oh,
More than half of them are in Alberta.
not surprised.
Yeah. And why is that?
Because Jason Kenney knows what he's doing.
Okay. Fair enough. It certainly helps in Alberta as well that they have a licensing system that works, because while it is still technically a regulated system through the liquor licensing control board, I guess, in Alberta, they basically are using the same licensing system as they did for alcohol establishments.
Yeah. Just use what's already there, roll it out, make it simple.
Yeah. Just use the same system. That's what Alberta did. So as of right now, the AGLC, so this is the the licensing board, I guess, as it were, in Alberta, has greenlit 306 retail outlets already.
Right. It's simple. For those of us in provinces that can't figure this out,
Ontario.
You have beer stores. Just put and cannabis at the end of it. Your problem solved.
Well, that's the thing. These are all private retailers as well. These aren't even like government run locations.
No, that's fair enough. But that's all they have to do for Ontario. The beer stores are there. Just
Yeah.
put and cannabis. How hard is that to sell?
Right. And well,
Who's not going to go to the beer store and pick up their weed too?
right. Absolutely.
It's so easy.
I'm going to get there. So
Sorry, I'm jumping the gun.
No, that's okay. That's all right. So just let's focus on the Alberta numbers right now.
Okay.
How many stores do you think Calgary has on its own?
Calgary.
Yeah.
And you said there's 300?
There's 306 stores that are greenlit in Alberta. Not necessarily open yet, but 306 that have been greenlit. So how many stores do you think are open in Calgary?
72.37.
Okay, you're high, first of all. No pun intended. 66.
Buy off by 6.37? Come
That's
on,
right.
give me a break.
Okay. My point being, though, Calgary has a population, I believe, a little over 1 million, roughly, including surrounding environs or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And Calgary has over twice the number of stores that Ontario has open. And Ontario has a population of 14 million.
Promises made, promises kept, folks.
So, like I had said, they'd greenlit 306 retail outlets. They're expecting to grow that number by another 200 by 2021. So, Alberta is expecting to have over 500 cannabis stores open by the end of 2021.
Well, we might get up to 40.
We might. The most recent lottery in Ontario was adding another 50 licenses, and we already had 25. But there's some complications there. I'm gonna get to that too. Some, I guess, quote unquote crime numbers, as it were. So police have seen no increase in crime or social disruption in Calgary. And Calgary did ban public consumption. So just like, smoking in public is banned. They've said, you can't smoke cannabis in public either, or use product in public. And apparently in this year of legalization, there have only been 35 complaints of public pot smoking made to the city in 1 year. So obviously, I would think that if people are smoking in public, which there probably are a lot of people that are, there's a lot of people that don't care.
The other thing too is just that it's a culture thing. So I can say I was brought up where smoking was more prevalent. So you saw people smoking everywhere. So it's much harder for you to undo that frame of mind. Whereas no one smoked pot in front of anybody because it was illegal. So you're just not going to whip out a joint and smoke it. You're just not going to do that. There are people that will still do it because they push the envelope, but it's just not as prevalent, and it will never become as prevalent as a result.
Yeah, exactly. Then we have Newfoundland. Okay.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So this was from an article from Maclean's dated September 19th. So Newfoundland, just like in Ontario, has a provincial regulator. And it's their liquor commission. So it's same as here. It's all through the LCBO in Ontario. So in Newfoundland, it's through the liquor commission. Apparently in Newfoundland, they decided that they would open the capability of retail sales to large businesses.
Okay. Yeah.
For instance, in Newfoundland, two businesses in particular, two large corporations in particular, that sell cannabis products out of their stores are Loblaws and Esso.
Because you're on your way.
You're on your way with Esso. Man, that's old. The Liquor Commission also allows the retailers to negotiate with the producers directly for pricing.
Anytime there's more competition or the ability to promote competition is always good. There's nothing ever bad about competition.
I would agree, except apparently, and again, the article is partially hearsay, but they did talk to a couple of people that did open dispensaries with legalization. The problem is that not only because they allowed large corporations to sell the product themselves, as opposed to leaving it to either provincially mandated stores or to smaller businesses, that the small businesses are basically being priced out because a company like Loblaws can get a better price and can get better product.
Yeah, there's also red tape involved that you have to negotiate too. Because I say competition, I mean actual pure competition. So if the producers are regulated to a point where it's basically they're only producing one type or one strain or whatever the case may be, then it's not a fair competition.
Right.
And that's what I mean by more competition is better. Not necessarily that if everyone's buying the same gold from one place, well, it's whoever can buy the most, right? Whereas if it's I can get it this way because I know this person, or I can produce it at a cheaper rate because it's local, that's different. And that's true competition. Okay.
So there is competition involved. It's from what I was reading, and the problem is that I couldn't find stories from every province, but at least from the stories that I did read, Newfoundland appears to be like one of the only provinces that is doing this, which depending on your point of view, it is somewhat unfortunate that it affects local business people.
On the bottom line, it's if the nature of the business is such that the consumer, because of the product, the producing of the product, the consumer gets the lowest price or the best value for their dollar. Do I care that a local business doesn't get it?
I suppose no.
I don't.
Because the consumer is satisfied one way or the other, right?
Right. So if the producers are set up in such a way that you can't change that aspect of it, like because they have to go through one channel only to produce, then it's just about volume, then let the big business work. I mean, there's a reason why they are big, and the reason why there are mega stores like Costco and things like that. It's not because local businesses don't want that market share. They can't compete.
Right. They can't compete with large volume and the other thing too, I mean, even with a company like Loblaws, I mean, it's grocery stores. So kind of like you said, where, the simplest thing, here would have been to add and cannabis to the beer store. By selling cannabis out of a large retailer out of a grocery store, people are going to get their groceries, and they can, that place has a pharmacy as well. They can go get their prescriptions, and by the way, they can also pick up their cannabis products.
Yeah.
And I understand the convenience of the one-stop shop kind of situation. We shop at Costco, right? I get it. Being someone who works with small business people pretty much every day, that's the part of me that's like, it kind of does suck that it's affecting small business owners. But I get it. You know what? Again, in the end of the day, the consumers are getting their product, and the government's making their revenues.
Yeah, I wish the reality is that if they were actually local from the standpoint of that they got their stuff locally, then it would be a true local business.
Right.
But if they're getting their stuff through one filter, that's not local. You're just, who's buying it?
Now, for a little bit of, I guess, deregulated processes. So apparently, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Nunavut, those three don't have government-run online stores like we have in Ontario with the OCS and things like that. So instead, they opened it up to private retailers to do e-commerce. E-commerce is still not very popular in the cannabis industry. Why do you think that is?
Spur of the moment purchase?
Spur of the moment purchase could be part of it. Other reasons you can think of?
No.
Try before you buy. People aren't necessarily, you're not trying the product per se, but you can smell it. You can touch it, feel it, whatever. And the benefit of going to a brick and mortar store with something like cannabis is that there are different strains, there's different products, there's different flavors, there's different whatever. And you don't get that concept with an online purchase.
No, especially considering such in its infancy.
Yeah. The other thing is concerns about travel. Not necessarily that you're taking your cannabis products with you to travel, because you can't, but a lot of these online retailers you have to pay by credit card. And people don't want that kind of information on their financial records to say that they purchased cannabis products from an online store with a credit card, because those kinds of transactions do get tracked, and it could potentially prevent you from traveling to other countries in the future.
Yeah, big data sucks.
Sometimes, yes. I feel like this is one of those situations where it would suck, because you haven't technically done anything illegal in Canada, and you haven't technically done anything illegal in another country, or that's illegal in another country while you were in that other country. But because you've done something in Canada that's illegal somewhere else, they can say, nope, sorry, you can't come in.
Just go to Portugal. You'll be fine.
Well, okay, fair, yes. Go to the countries that are okay with that kind of stuff. Portugal is okay with that kind of stuff.
Portugal's okay with everything.
I'm sure you could probably go to like the Canary Islands or somewhere in Africa probably too. Like there's places you could go, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But that's some of the concerns that people have with buying online. So as a result, even in those provinces, less than 10% of the sales that they have had to date have been through e-commerce. Most of it's in person. In a lot of cases, people are paying by cash, because then again, there's not a transaction. That's traceable.
Yeah, that company can't get a hold of.
Yeah. And then along with this, because of the rollout in Ontario, there's business owners in Ontario that have been trying to get licenses, but so far have failed, that are opening their own illegal online dispensaries.
Genius.
And the reason for doing that, one, because they don't want to wait for an actual license to make money, because they've already put a lot of money into getting these businesses started, hoping that they would be able to be selling cannabis products by now. But they can also, they're selling black market product, so they're getting better prices.
Yep.
And they can then provide better prices to people that buy from them, as opposed to people that buy from licensed stores.
Yeah, because they don't have to pay taxes.
And the belief there in regards to these online dispensaries is that the police are so focused on closing down the illegal physical dispensaries that they just don't have the capability or the presence to close down the online ones.
Yet.
That could change. Yes, you're right. Let's get to Ontario.
I love it.
And Quebec's going to be lumped into here a little bit as well. Between Ontario and Quebec, there's roughly 2/3 of the population of the country.
Mm-hmm.
Between the two provinces, to date, there are 45 stores.
Quebec's even doing worse?
Quebec is doing worse than Ontario.
Wow, good job.
Quebec has 20 stores. From the articles I was reading, Quebec has 20 stores open.
Good job.
Yeah. A1 plus, right?
Listen, the cock can only do so much.
The who?
The people that they get elected for.
Oh, the C. Okay.
The cock.
All right.
That's what they're called.
Yes, the CAQ. Fair enough.
What would you call them?
I've never heard them called. I always hear them called the CAQ. I've never heard them called that.
Oh no, straight up, they're called the cock.
All right. Well, there you go. The party that is currently leading Quebec is called the Cock.
Mm-hmm.
All right. News to me. There's been 2 licensed lotteries so far in Ontario. First one was 25 licenses were handed out. Because 25 stores couldn't just handle. 25 stores isn't even enough to handle what the demand would be in Toronto. Nope. But let's do 25 licenses for the entire province. And then I think only give 3 out in Toronto, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I don't know what
it was. It was a very small amount.
It was absurd. That's all I know.
Okay. The second lottery, they added 50 more licenses. So we'd go up to a grand total of 75 stores.
Yeah.
Now that lottery has happened, and I know for a fact that there are people that won licenses in that lottery that have essentially already been quote unquote disqualified because of, not filling out all the proper regulatory paperwork and things like that. But they were still able to put their names in for this lottery before they had the regulatory paperwork filled out. And on top of that, in this second lottery, you could put in multiple bids for a single address. You had to provide an address when you submitted a bid, but you could put multiple bids in for one address. To the point that apparently the records that are available for this second lottery, there is one address that had 173 entries in the second lottery.
I hope they didn't get in.
The article didn't specify whether they did. This was...
Or they got 5.
Maybe.
That would be even better.
Well, I know that there was... I remember that when that lottery happened, there was a story that came out, and there were 3 addresses in particular. I can't remember if it was Yonge Street or Queen Street. No, I think it was Yonge Street in Innisfil. So knowing where Yonge Street runs. And literally, it's these 3 addresses. You'd probably be able to stand on the street at the one that's in the middle and be able to see the other 2. All 3 of them won licenses in the lottery. Although, as far as I'm aware from a story I read after that, all 3 of them then subsequently lost those licenses because they didn't have their paperwork filled out.
Yeah. There. Yeah. Promises made, promises kept. We're doing all I will say for this.
We're doing great. I also want to point out that in order to put an entry in for that second lottery, it was $75 an entry. And this one address had 173 entries.
Only 173? Man, that guy was an idiot.
Yeah.
Should have been like 2,000 entries.
At $75 a pop, why not? Now, the big numbers for Ontario. The Ontario Cannabis Retail Corporation lost $42 million for the year ending March 31st, 2019.
I don't know how you lose money on marijuana. Like that, like how.
Okay, so keep in mind, the year end for these numbers was March 31st. So really, we're talking less than 6 months of legalization, which means, if I remember the licensing process, the way that the licensing process worked, and when the first stores finally opened, by this point, there was not actually a physical store open. It was all online sales.
Okay, that makes it worse. So the only way I will accept this loss is if the way they did their accounting, they ran up the cost on the buildings as a part of their balance sheet, and then that's the way that they lost money.
Are you ready? I've got the figures.
Oh my God, I'm gonna cry.
I've got the okay. So this was.
Do I need tissues?
You might. I don't have any here though.
God. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so this was in a story in the National Post, September 17th. So, year ending March 31st, 2019. Ontario had $63.9 million in revenue by that point. So keep in mind those revenues were generated in less than 6 months.
Okay.
Because when legalization effectively occurred.
Yeah.
Cost of goods sold, so buying product, was $44.1 million. So on the product alone, we did make a profit of $19.8 million.
Okay.
But consider the fact that we had a $42 million loss.
I'm still following. I'm waiting to figure out where the other 60 million went. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so this next number wipes out the profit. $24.9 million in quote-unquote shared services, including administration through the LCBO.
But they're not in the LCBO.
Well, they kind of are, because the LCBO is still the regulatory body for the OCS, for the Ontario Cannabis Store. So because essentially it's money that had to be paid from the Ontario Cannabis Retail Corporation to other, whatever those shared services might be. It wasn't all LCBO, but part of those expenses was essentially because there were people that worked for the LCBO that did work for the Ontario Cannabis Retail Corporation, the OCRC had to pay money to the LCBO to cover those costs.
But is it a fixed cost or variable cost? Do you know?
The story didn't really specify. Again, that's why I said quote unquote shared costs, because unfortunately it didn't go into a lot of detail, just said that part of it included administration through the LCBO.
Okay.
$9.3 million in salaries and benefits.
Okay.
Including $500,000 in pension contributions, whether that matters or not.
Well, I'm fine.
It's a government position. There's going to be pensions.
So it's 10 million.
That's right.
Okay.
And $8.9 million in impairment charges. Now, what's an impairment charge, you might ask?
Is that like because they sell weed, they have to pay for weed counseling?
No.
That'd be awesome if it was.
Okay. You're going to love this one. So the largest line item in this expense category, $8.7 million. Fixtures purchased for stores that never opened because of the change in structure in how the cannabis stores were going to be run after the election in 2018.
Right.
$8.7 million in fixtures that we never used.
Well, at least it's fixed and we only have to pay it once.
Well, that's true.
Awesome.
But now
for stores that didn't open, we paid for stuff. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Right, fine.
Okay. On top of that, storefront costs. $1 million and $1.4 million separately for terminations of leases and contracts. The leases having to do with essentially storefront spaces that were ready to go for physical OCS stores that never opened.
Of course. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Promises made, promises kept is what that is.
Man, that's going to get old by the time we're done with these numbers. We're getting close to the end, though. $5.2 million in IT systems and tech support. So for setting up online.
Okay.
So whatever. I mean,
okay.
I'm sure there was more to it than that, but either way. $3 million in e-commerce transaction processing, which was approximately 4.7% of sales. And then some other smaller line items included $900,000 for consulting services.
Yeah, we all know how I feel about consulting. Okay, yep, go ahead.
This was a separate line item, but I wasn't really sure how it was separate from what I just said. $640,000 in contract services.
Well, consulting is where you ask somebody. Contracting is where you go, I don't want you to do it. I want you to do it.
It's planning and implementation, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of the difference between the two.
Yeah. Contracting, I can contract work out for people. And consulting is I'm throwing money away and lighting on fire. Okay,
right. $580,000 in insurance.
That's actually cheap as far as I'm concerned.
Probably, yeah. $570,000 in recruiting and $1 million in quote unquote other expenses.
Well, whatever. I mean, that happens.
Those line items are not quite as important. But
so, from my accounting knowledge, which I have some, how do they make money off of the product itself? It almost seems like there's more money on a variable cost basis, like how much it costs per product to sell, than they're getting back. Am I mistaken? Am I missing something?
Well, again, just on the top line items, on the revenue and the cost of goods sold, they made money, right? They made almost $20 million on the actual, just the product itself.
Well, yeah, because if they took a loss on that, they'd be idiots.
Right. A big part of the reason why there's a loss is because of the fact that with the election last year in Ontario in 2018, the PC government decided, the Liberal plan to sell through the LCBO and stuff like that, no, we're going to scrap that and we're going to open it up to the private market. Except for the fact that the rollout to the private market has taken so long. And with the timing that these numbers are covering, none of the physical stores were open by March 31st, 2019.
No, like the rollout was done terribly because they could have used a business model that was there, but it's almost like as if, oh, wait, the other party did it? Oh, we can't do it.
Right.
Even if it makes sense, we can't do it, which bothers me to no end.
So the last thing I want to cover has to do with pardons.
Pardons?
Pardons.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay. So pardons for convictions for cannabis possession. Okay. So in June of 2018, they also introduced Bill C-93, which was essentially the legislation that would allow for people who had a prior cannabis conviction to apply for a pardon. And the pardon process would be different. The pardon process for most convictions is you have to wait 5 years after serving your sentence, and then there's a fee that you have to pay. And the fee's around $600, $700. And then paperwork and blah, 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 whatever.
Yeah, there's lots of stuff, hurdles you have to jump through.
Right. So as of August 1st of 2019, this legislation passed where essentially once your sentence is done, you can apply for a pardon immediately and there's no fee.
Okay.
How many people do you think, roughly, have a possession conviction on their record?
26,532.
You are off by almost a factor of 10. It's estimated that over 250,000 Canadians have a cannabis possession conviction on their record.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Just a bit.
And it's like just for possession, not for like selling, right?
This is just possession.
Okay.
This is just possession. These numbers are going to come from a story from Global News, September 9th. There have been 71 cases heard or reviewed, I guess, as of the end of August. So after 1 month.
Okay.
And 44 pardons were given of the 71 cases.
Why were the other ones declined? Do you know?
Again, unfortunately, the story didn't go into that.
Okay.
Part of it is what kind of paperwork you have to be able to provide in order to get a pardon for this.
I can see that.
And the fact that a lot of the people that have convictions on their record right now potentially are so old that it's very difficult to get copies of the paperwork that detail what your conviction or what your charge and your conviction was for.
Yeah. There's a lot of
Like for instance, one of the things that the Global News article mentioned was that in order to get the information that you require about your charge and your conviction, you would need to go to the courthouse where your case was heard in person to request the documents.
Yeah, there's some loops and hurdles you might have to go through. And especially if you're considering that it's a possession charge, yeah, that'd be fun.
While I feel that it's good that they're providing an opportunity for people to get a pardon on these charges, it's not going to be an easy process. And this isn't even necessarily a situation where you can say, well, it's the regular delays in the justice system. It's more like, no, it's just the regular bureaucracy of the government that's going to cause the problem, because there are digital versions of these records. So again, you're hoping that wherever it is you have to go to get your records still has the original paper copies of your records. Let's say if your conviction was 25 years ago.
Wait. So what you're saying is that the Canadian legal system and the Canadian government isn't quick.
Yes.
Oh my. What is this world coming to?
There was another point I had in here about the government not being quick about things. I don't know if I ended up writing it down or not.
You needed to write it down?
Well, no, I wrote it down because it was specific to this situation. But you know what? I don't think I wrote it down, so I don't think it matters. So that's at least a basic primer on marijuana legalization.
Yes.
Surprised?
Very. The fact that, one, you can lose money on marijuana is you drop the ball. Like, you can't lose money on something that's a guaranteed profit. Like, there's so much demand. Like,
yes, exactly. That is our view on marijuana legalization 1 year later. Thanks for listening. My name's Adam.
My name's Mike.